Sahana Bhavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavai Tejasvina Vaditamastu Mavidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. May the Divine Being look over us lovingly as a mother and father. May the Divine Being support and nourish us as a mother and father. May we have the strength and skill to study together the art of spirituality. May no misunderstandings arise amongst us. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Well, a great good morning and a welcome to all of you this morning. It is, of course, the season of Christmas. And so this morning we will talk about the Raja Yoga of Lord Jesus Christ. First, these announcements. The center is closed for all but people coming to the chapel for private meditation or prayer. Appointments can still be made to see the resident minister. So if you wish to do that, then contact me by email, or if you have my phone number, you can give me a call. The remaining activities for this year, this is the last talk, so to speak. We will have a Christmas Eve worship on December 24th, and Holy Mother's birthday is celebrated this year on December 26th. So next Sunday, we will observe Holy Mother's birthday with a simple worship. Aditya Chaturvedi is away to the north visiting his sister. So we won't have a puja, we'll just have a simple worship of the kind that the mother herself used to do. So it'll be loving and simple and straightforward. That's it for the announcements. Of course, there'll be the midnight meditation on the night of New Year's Eve, and then Kalpataru Day the next day. You'll find all of that information in your newsletter or on the website. So to begin, December is a month for the study of Raja Yoga, a spiritual path often called the yoga of meditation. As a Raja Yogi, you use ancient, proven spiritual techniques to calm your body, quiet your mind, and gain control of your attention. Regular daily practice of Raja Yoga increases your ability to concentrate and may lead to meditation. This can unite you with the Divine Presence, the source of your being, and free you from the cycle of rebirth and death. As spoken of by the Raja Yogi, the state of complete liberation from the gunas' influence is called kaivalya, independence. We will see this morning that Jesus Christ also spoke of these things in his own way. So the title of this morning's talk is Raja Yoga of Lord Jesus Christ. Clearly, Jesus was a Raja Yogi. He used many of the powers described in Chapter 3 of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, among other miracles, demonstration of his yogic powers. He turned water into wine. He healed the lame, the blind, the paralyzed, and others. He raised people from the dead. He fed a large crowd with just a few fish and a few loaves of bread. The crowd was estimated to be between 4,000 and 5,000 men and their families. So it could have been as many as 10 or 15,000 people. He fed them with just a few fish, and there was plenty to eat and even some left over. And remarkably, according to Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, Christ was able to disappear, that is, become invisible at will. He escaped a number of times what would have been arrest by that ability. Jesus also taught what we call Raja Yoga to his followers. This morning we will read and discuss examples of these teachings from the New Testament Gospel of Matthew, the Gospel of Thomas, and the Gospel of the Beloved Companion. Now, just to review the Raja Yoga of Patanjali, what does it consist of? Well, very briefly, there are 8 limbs or steps. First, the restraints, turning away from a life of adversarial relationship with the world and others, the life of I, me, mine. This is the restraints. Then, to replace that life of I, me, mine, there are the observances that slowly and slowly move you to a life centered on thou, thee, thine. That's the restraints and the observances, the first 2 steps or limbs. Then there's the posture for spiritual practice. That's the 3rd. 4th, control of your life energy. 5th, turning away from the world of the senses, both externally, learning to not be so involved in things of the senses externally, and also not being captured by our memory of things of the senses in our thoughts. So that's 5. 6 is the practice of concentration. Now, there's great emphasis in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras in the practice of concentration. We don't find so much emphasis on that in Jesus's teachings. Some discussion, not much, that is known to us. But as you will see when we read from the Gospel of the Beloved Companion, that you could not do what is discussed there without, and this is his real, his discussion, his telling of the Beloved Companion, Mary, Magdalene, about the 8 limbs of a tree. We see that it could not be possibly done, what he suggests, what he recommends, what he teaches, without the ability to concentrate. And so that leads to meditation. Now, these first 6 limbs are what Patanjali calls a product of your self-effort, Purushakara. The last 2 are something, he says, that once you've accomplished these first 6 steps, these last 2 Deep meditation and liberation are something that happens to you. So,
Brother Shankara, could you repeat 1 to 6, please?
yes, the restraints,
Yeah,
the observances,
observance.
the posture for practice,
Okay.
control of your life energy, and turning away from the life of the senses, and concentration.
Thank you.
So Jesus very clearly spoke of these restraints and observances in his Sermon on the Mount. He didn't organize them the way Patanjali did, but as we read through this, I'll comment on it, but you'll be able to see it clearly, that these are the restraints and observances as taught by Jesus. First, the opening of the Sermon on the Mount, the Beatitudes. Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. What does it mean to be poor in spirit? It means to have renounced the world and be focused on the spirit. You are poor in everything but the spirit. Blessed are those who mourn, for they shall be comforted. When we feel that ache of the separation from the divine, we will be comforted, Jesus says. And this is, of course, very much taught by Sri Ramakrishna. Blessed are the gentle, often used the word meek. Gentle and well trained is actually the proper understanding of meek. For they shall inherit the earth. Blessed are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, for they shall be satisfied. This yearning, this hunger for righteousness, they shall be satisfied. Blessed are the merciful, for they shall receive mercy. This again is turning away from the life of I, me, mine to the life of thou, thee, thine. Otherwise, how can you be merciful? Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Now, of course, this is the highest teaching. This is the highest teaching. It seems to be buried here. But blessed are the pure in heart. And the practices of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras are for purification of the heart, the mind, the body. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called sons of God. Well, you cannot be a peacemaker if you're centered on I, me, mine. You have to be centered in thou, thee, thine. Blessed are those who are persecuted for righteousness' sake, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. We all understand how this can be. Blessed are you when others revile and persecute you and utter all kinds of evil against you on my account. And we know that this is very possible if you lead a life of spiritual grace and spiritual aspiration that others may not understand. You are the light of the world. A city set on a hill cannot be hidden, nor do people light a lamp and put it under a basket, but on a stand, and it gives light to all in the house. In the same way, your light shines before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to the Father who is in heaven. So this is what happens when you practice the observances and you become that more radiant being. Now there's much more to this Sermon on the Mount. I'm not going to read it all. If you want to find it, you'll find it in the notes, which are downloadable once the talk is up. But it's all here, the entire sermon. But as I said, Christ didn't organize the Sermon on the Mount like Patanjali did, so we come to anger. You have heard anger, of course, is one of the things that is spoken against in the restraints of Patanjali. And Jesus says, you have heard that it was said to those of old, you shall not murder, and whoever murders will be liable to judgment. But I say to you that everyone who is angry with his brother will be liable to judgment. Whoever insults his brother will be liable to the council, and whoever says, you fool, will be liable to the hell of fire. These are metaphors for your karma. Lust. Lust is also spoken of as you must not be lustful in the restraints. You have heard it said, you shall not commit adultery. But I say, Jesus' words, but I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman or a man with lustful intent has already committed adultery in his or her heart. So it's not a matter of just the act. It's a matter of control of your mind. Retaliation. In other words, being vengeful. You have heard it said, an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth. But I say to you, do not resist the one who is evil. But anyone who slaps you on the right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if anyone would sue you and take your tunic, let him have your cloak as well. And if anyone forces you to go 1 mile, go with him 2 miles. Give to the one who begs from you, and do not refuse the one who would borrow from you. This is the life of thou, thee, thine, being other-centered rather than self-centered. And that extends to love your enemies. You have heard it was said, you shall love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say to you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you, so that you may be sons of the Father who is in heaven. For he makes the sun rise on the evil and the good, and sends rain on the just and the unjust. If you just love those who love you, what reward do you have? Giving to the needy. Beware of practicing your righteousness before other people in order to be seen by them, for then you will have the reward. Then you will have no reward from your Father in heaven. Thus, when you give to the needy, sound no trumpet before you, as the hypocrites do in the synagogues and in the streets, that they may be praised by others. So it's clear that these observances that Jesus is saying are to turn you away from self-centeredness and away to and toward the life of other-centeredness. And of course, in the observances of Patanjali, it's recommended that you study the scriptures and so on. Well, of course, Jesus recommends that too. He even gives the Lord's Prayer, and so that the people will have something especially to focus on as a replacement for their idea of, I have to take for myself. No, you turn to the Father. And so, our Father in heaven, beloved be thy name. Oh no, our Father in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as also we forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. That's the Lord's Prayer. You can see how it is not a grasping thing. It is a receiving of the Lord's gifts. So there's much more to this fasting, not laying up treasures here in the world, but looking to the world of the Spirit for your treasures. Do not be anxious. This is the practice of santosha, or contentment. Do not be anxious, he tells them, for what will you have to eat? What will you wear? Where will you live? Just accept what comes to you, and be grateful for it. Don't judge others. These are all the ideas that he's presented. And ask, and it will be given. This is one of the key ideas that Jesus said, that the power is within you. The kingdom is within you to grant what you ask. So ask of that. And then the golden rule. So whatever you wish that others would do to you, do also to them. This is the golden rule. And it is clear that the other-centeredness is being focused on. As I said, I'm not going to go over all of the parts of the sermon because it would just take us too long. I said that we would read from the Gospel of Thomas. Now, the Gospel of Thomas is not one of the canonical Gospels, but it has been accepted by scholars as authentic, as has the Gospel of the Beloved Companion that I will read from at the end, where we really get to Jesus's deep teachings that parallel very closely the 8 limbs of Patanjali's yoga. But from the Gospel of Thomas, these are the secret sayings that the living Jesus spoke, and Didymus, Judas Thomas, recorded. So this is how it opens, that these were the things that Jesus said to his disciples. And Jesus said, whoever discovers the interpretation of these sayings will not taste death. In other words, will become immortal. So Jesus is saying the same thing that all of the scriptures say. When you truly understand, you will not be subject to the cycle of rebirth and death. Jesus said, those who seek should not stop seeking until they find. When they find, they will be disturbed. When they are disturbed, they will marvel, and they will rule over all. Now, this is kind of a very brief summary of what is in chapters 3 and 4 of Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. Keep on seeking until you find that silence at the center of yourself. And then, having found that, you will be disturbed. What does this mean? That you will no longer be content with your external life. You will feel that things must change to be in accord with what you've discovered. And when those changes are made, then you will become powerful in the sense of spiritually powerful. And that's what Jesus means by rule over all. Jesus said, know what is in front of your face, and what is hidden from you will be disclosed to you. For there is nothing hidden that won't be revealed. And this is a very close parallel to what Patanjali says. Learn to trust the testimony of your senses. Clarify your senses until they correctly reflect the world. As Scrooge said to his clerk, Bob Cratchit, after Scrooge had awakened, he said, Bob, I have not taken leave of my senses. I have come to them. And that's what's being spoken of here. Know what is in front of your face. See clearly what it is. And then all will be revealed to you. And then very explicitly, some of the restraints. Jesus said, don't lie. And don't do what you hate, because all things are disclosed before heaven. After all, there is nothing hidden that won't be revealed, and there is nothing covered up that will remain undisclosed. And this is what happens to you when you plunge deep into concentration and meditation. All of what is restraining you, all of your limitations, in Sanskrit upadhis, all of your limitations will be revealed to you, and also what to do to escape them, to escape their grasp. Jesus said, I shall give you what no eye has seen, what no ear has heard, what no hand has touched, what has not arisen in the human heart. In other words, these are the deep things that come to us as we practice spirituality. Mary said to Jesus, what are your disciples like? They will be on guard against the world. Prepare yourselves with great strength so that robbers can't find a way to get to you, for the trouble you expect will come. And this is what spiritual life does for us. is prepare us to deal with the world in such a way that we can no longer be stolen from by the world, by the power of Maya, by the power of the world of the senses and of our wandering mind. Seek the treasure. Seek his treasure that is unfailing, that is enduring, where no moth comes to eat and no worm destroys. The things of the world come and go. The things of the Spirit are indestructible. Jesus said, whoever is near me is near the fire, and whoever is far from me is far from the Father's domain. Patanjali very clearly in the Yoga Sutras says, it is good to seek the company of Ishvara in meditation. It is good to seek the company of the divine being in manifestation, that it will strengthen you. And so that's what Jesus is saying here. Whoever is near me is near the fire, and whoever is far from me is far from the Father's domain. Jesus said, whoever drinks from my mouth will become like me. I myself shall become that person, and the hidden things will be revealed to him. The knower of Brahman becomes Brahman. The knower of the truth becomes the truth. And that's what Jesus is saying. And the final thing that I'll read from the Gospel of Thomas. The one who has found the world and has become wealthy should renounce the world.
Mhm.
According to Patanjali, when you discover the truth within yourself through deep meditation, you will become powerful. You will become what Jesus is calling wealthy. The one who has found the world and has become wealthy should renounce the world. And if you read Patanjali's Yoga Sutras in translation, either by Vivekananda or by Swami Prabhavananda, you will find that that is the last temptation, is to exploit the power that you have gained. Now I'm going to read from the Gospel of the Beloved Companion. This is the testimony. This is the Gospel written by Mary Magdalene. Much of it is found also, particularly in the Gospel of John. But this last part, which so closely parallels Patanjali, is not. So this is from the Gospel of the Beloved Companion, the testimony of Mary Magdalene. Jesus says to her, "From the truth I tell you, there is a great tree within you that does not change summer or winter, and its leaves do not fall. Whoever Whosoever listens to my words and ascends to its crown will not taste death, but know the truth of eternal life. Then he showed me a vision in which I saw a great tree that seemed to reach unto the heavens. And as I saw these things, he said, Jesus said, the roots of this tree are in the earth, which is your body. The trunk extends upwards through the 5 regions of humanity, the 5 upper chakras, we would call them, to the crown, which is the kingdom of the spirit. There are 8 great boughs upon this tree. This is the direct parallel with Patanjali. There are 8 great boughs upon this tree, and each bough bears its own fruit, which you must eat in all its fullness, as the fruit of the tree in the garden caused Adam and Eve to fall into darkness. So this fruit will grant to you the light of the Spirit that is eternal life. Between each bough is a gate and a guardian who challenges the unworthy, and challenges the unworthy who try to pass. The leaves at the bottom of the tree are thick and plentiful, so no light penetrates to illuminate. This is the life of the senses. This is the life of living in what spiritually is considered the darkness. There's lots of things to distract us at the bottom of the tree. But fear not, for I am the way and the light, and I am the way and the light, and I tell you that as one ascends the tree, the leaves that block one from the light are fewer. So it is possible to see all more clearly, Those who seek to ascend must free themselves from the world. Now, does that sound familiar? You must renounce the world of the senses. If you do not free yourself from the world, you will lie in the darkness. You will die in the darkness that is at the root of the tree. But if you free yourself, you will rise and reach the light that is the eternal life of the Spirit. And as he said these things, I felt myself ascend and saw the first great bough that bears the fruit of love and compassion, the foundation of all things. So the first thing that one discovers when one turns away from the life of the world of I, me, mine, is this love and compassion, thou, thee, thine, the foundation of all things. And I knew that before you can eat of this fruit and gain its nourishment, you must be free of all judgment and wrath. So this is a summary of this being free of the life of I, me, mine. You must be free of all judgment and wrath. when you have freed yourself of these burdens, you may eat of the fruit and so gain the love and compassion that will allow you to pass the first of the 7 guardians. And I heard the voice of the Lord, and I heard the voice of the Lord of wrath calling to me, but I denied him, and he had no part in me. The Lord of wrath, of course, is that aspect of ourselves that wants to keep us imprisoned, wants to keep us in the darkness. So I saw my soul ascend again, and he, Jesus, showed me the second great bough, weighed down with the fruit of wisdom and understanding. And I saw that before you can gain these fruits' bounty, you must be free of all ignorance and intolerance. So this is what happens when wisdom and understanding comes from practicing the observances of Patanjali. And I saw that before you can eat of that bounty, you must be free of all ignorance and intolerance. Living the life of thou, thee, thine. Only then can you eat of the fruit, and so surpass upward, unhindered through the second of the 7 gates. And I heard the voice of ignorance call to me, but I knew him not, and so my soul did thus and so she goes unhindered through that gate. Then my master showed me the third great bough, which bears the fruit of honor and humility. Only when free of all duplicity and arrogance may you partake of its nourishment. And arrogance called to me, saying, "You are not worthy. Go back." Do we all know that voice? Mm-hmm. You're not worthy. Go back. But my soul was deaf to him, and so moved onward and upward into increasing light. And then there came the 4th bough, blossoming with the fruit of strength and courage. And I heard him tell me that to eat of this fruit, you must have freed yourself from the weakness of the flesh and confronted and conquered the illusion of your fears. And the master of the world stood before me and claimed me as his own, but I denied him, and he had no part of me. The master of the world being the words that are in this gospel of Maya. We would think of it as Mahamaya, the master of this world, which will try to claim us.
Shankara?
Yes, dear.
Excuse me, could you repeat that again of what she encountered? What was, there on the 4th bough?
And then there came the fourth bough, blossoming with the fruit of strength and courage. And I heard him tell me that to eat of this fruit, you must have freed yourself from the weakness of the flesh and confronted and conquered the illusion of your fears. And the master of the world, Mahamaya, stood before me and claimed me as his. But I denied him, and he had no part of me. Only then my master told me, when you have rejected the deceiver, can you pass through the hardest gate of all to attain the fifth bough. Only when you have rejected the deceiver can you pass through the hardest gate of all to attain the fifth bough. And
Thank you so much.
Yeah, and the fruit of the fifth bough and the fruit of charity and truth. Charity can also be translated as mercy.
Charity and
Mercy.
Mercy.
Only then will you know the charity and truth of your soul, and knowing yourself for the first time, understand that you are a child of the living Spirit. So strength and courage to deny the world and have the humility, the honor, but the humility to know you are a child of the living Spirit. And my soul moved upward. I realized that I could no longer hear the voice of the world, as all what had become as silence. Now we've talked about this extensively, that as you move into concentration and meditation, you sink into silence. So notice that the fifth bough here is this business of concentration. When you can concentrate on the truths that you know, and you know yourself to be the Atman, you have begun to recognize yourself as the witness and the Atman. Then you are able to sink below even the practice that brought you there, which may be the mantra or visualization or whatever it is. You sink below that into a great silence. And so she said, I realized that I could no longer hear the voice of the world, as all had become as silence. I then saw the light above. I saw the sixth bough, the one that bore the fruit of power and healing. Now, these are the psychic powers. This is the sixth bough. Now you have what Patanjali refers to in chapter 3 of the Yoga Sutras, the power, the fruit of power and healing. My master told me that when you truly have eaten of the fruit of charity and truth, the truth of yourself, then could you partake of the fruit of power and healing. The power to heal your own soul and thereby make it ready to ascend to the seventh bow. Notice that the healing it's not to be directed outward, although Christ did all these things himself and gave the power to his disciples to do so as well. He says that for you to go beyond all things of the world, you must heal your own soul. So I'll repeat that. My master told me that when you have eaten of the fruit of charity and truth, the truth of yourself, then only could you partake of the power of the fruit of power and healing, the power to heal your own soul and thereby make it ready to ascend to the seventh bow, where it will be where it will be fed by the fruits of light and goodness. Ascending to the seventh bow, it will be fed by the fruits of light and goodness. And I saw my soul, now free of all darkness, ascend again to be fed with that light and goodness. That is the Spirit. And I was led with great joy and I was led with a fierce joy. And I was filled with a fierce joy as my soul turned to fire and flew upwards. If you could see this type, you'd know why I'm having difficulty. And flew upwards in the flames from whence my master showed me the eighth and final bow, upon which burned the fruit of the grace and beauty of the Spirit. And I felt my soul and all that I could see dissolve and vanish in a brilliant light, in a likeness unto the sun. And in the light I beheld a woman of extraordinary beauty, clothed in garments of brilliant white. The figure extended its arms, and I felt my soul drawn into its embrace. And in that moment, I was freed from the world, and I realized that the fetter of forgetfulness was temporary. From now on, I shall rest through the course of time, of the age, in silence. And if you read the last couple of pages of Swamiji's translation of Raja Yoga, you see that what she encountered was what Swami Vivekananda called the mother, that you are no longer a prisoner of the gunas, that your being dissolves into its source, which is the mother. And so there's more, but we have just a few minutes left. And if you want to read the rest of this, it will be in the notes. All of it will be in the notes. And so, are there any comments? Anything from your own wisdom, your own experience? Any concerns you'd like to raise or any question you'd like to ask?
Shankara,
Yes, dear.
I'm following along as you're reading this. Can you read the last part of that Christ says to her?
Well, would you read it, please, Lori? Because you'll read it more easily than I can.
Okay. Let's see. I'm not sure where you left off. I think you said...
Just read the 8th bow part and then write on into what you are talking about.
Wow, really? Okay.
Is it grace? Grace. 8 vowels. Grace.
Well, yes, it would be. We would call it grace, dear. Yes.
Yeah.
Just
okay.
pick up where you'd like, Lori. Just read from where you'd like.
Okay. And I saw my soul, now free of all darkness, ascend again to be filled with the light and goodness that is the Spirit. And I was filled with a fierce joy as my soul turned to fire and flew upwards in the flames, from whence my master showed me the 8th and final bough, upon which burned the fruit of the grace and beauty of the Spirit.
Yeah.
And I felt my soul and all that I could see dissolve and vanish in a brilliant light, in a likeness unto the sun. And in the light, I beheld a woman of extraordinary beauty. Clothed in garments of brilliant white. The figure extended its arms, and I felt my soul drawn into its embrace. And in that moment, I was freed from the world. And I realized that the fetter of forgetfulness was temporary. From now on, I shall rest through the course of the time of the age. And let's see, I shall rest through the course of the time of the age in silence. And then, as if from a great distance, I heard the voice of my master tell me, Miriam, whom I have called the Magdalene, which means the tower. Now you have seen the all and have known the truth of yourself, the truth that is I am. Now you have become the completion of completions. And thus the vision ended.
Thank you, Lori.
Thank you, Shankara.
Any comments or questions from anyone?
Brother Shankara,
Yes, dear.
somewhere, I don't know which particular vow, but you refer to moving onward and upward toward the light. And that's so much reminded me, a striking similarity with chapter 15 of Bhagavad Gita.
Oh, yes.
First two shlokas, Urdhva Moolam Adhashakham. Oh my Lord, the blessed Lord said, with roots above, branches below, the Ashwatha tree is said to be indestructible. The leaves are hymns, and who knoweth this is the knower of Vedas. Downwards and upwards spread the branches of this tree, nourished by the qualities, the objects of the senses, its birds, and its roots grow downwards. The bonds of action in the world of men. Such a beautiful, striking similarity.
Oh, yes. Well, truth is one. Sages call it by many names. Krishna spoke those words, sometime between 2,500 and 5,000 years ago?
Yes.
Christ spoke these words to Miriam, the beloved companion, some 2,000 years ago. Sri Ramakrishna spoke them again in his own way. Chaitanya spoke them in his own way. The great teachers come and tell us in their own way, and sometimes they use the same metaphor.
Yes, yes.
Because it's embedded in the truth of being.
Yes.
These metaphors.
Thank you. And just a second observation, Mahatma Gandhi compared Sermon on the Mount with the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And he also mentioned that both have emphasized renunciation and forgiveness, love thy enemies, and pray for the person who persecutes you.
Yes.
All this he imbibed from Sermon on the Mount, and he said that it struck him how much it reminded him of Bhagavad Gita.
Yes. The same thing was said by Swami Vivekananda, who particularly focused on blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Yes, there's great similarities. After all, there is only one.
Truth.
And there is only one aspect of that one that appears among us as incarnation.
Mm-hmm.
The aspect of the Son of God, if you will.
Yeah.
Or daughter of God in the case of Holy Mother. Anyone else? Anything, please?
Shankara?
Yes, dear.
I'll just add here that many people feel, and I'm one of them, that Christ traveled to India and studied with many of the holy ones there.
Mm-hmm.
And there are actually writings that are in some monasteries there in, I think, Tibet.
Yeah.
Or maybe northern India, that talk of this person named Isha who was revered, and then he returned to his homeland where he was crucified.
Mm-hmm.
So I just wanted to bring that up.
Yes, but we must beware of thinking that Christ is an incarnation of God. wasn't the container of all this, but just as Sri Ramakrishna's sadhana, his spiritual journey, is known to us. And when these great ones take human form, they have to overcome the limitations of the human form. This is what many of them, including Holy Mother and Sri Ramakrishna, say. And so these teachings that they encounter, these teachers, they help them awaken what's already there. And so it isn't as if Jesus brought, we must beware of thinking that Jesus brought these teachings from India. No, Patanjali came much later than Christ. These ideas were, of course, in circulation and in the spiritual traditions of many parts of the world, including, if you look closely, if you decide to make the investigation, including here in the New World, in the Andes and in Mexico. They became corrupted, as they often do, but they were there. And so we revere Christ for being who he is, and that is an incarnation of the sustainer and protector of the world. Anyone else? Thank you, Lori.
Brother Shankara, this is Fred.
Yes, Fred.
Greetings to everybody on the call. I just have a brief impression. That's the first time I've heard what you read, and it makes me feel a little glimpse or something, just how fantastic and amazing God, or whatever you want to call it, is, and how we might be related to that. It's just so amazing, fantastic. I just can't even get my mind around it.
Well, isn't it beautiful, Fred? You're absolutely right. And isn't it wonderful what Miriam says? She realized that the fetter of forgetfulness is temporary. And so we will come into this knowledge, each one of us will ultimately be free of the fetter of forgetfulness and come into all of this glory. Thank you, Fred. Yes, it is absolutely astounding. Anyone else?
Brother Shankara?
Yes, Bhagirath.
You know, the interpretation of Jesus Christ going to India may look very fascinating, but we do not need that. We do not need that because we have two kinds of sages we describe in Sanskrit. One of them, he speaks to chasing the meaning. But the second one, he speaks and the meaning chases his speech.
Aha.
So particularly for Jesus Christ, you know, I think he didn't have to go to India. But whatever is the substance of this universe, of this Brahman, automatically followed his speech. And therefore, his speech is so full of brevity and still so full of meaning. And that goes to show that silence is perhaps a very, very good thing, which needs to be more and more and more emphasized. And I thought there are very good enriching anecdotes in India about stressing the value of silence, but the one which I read from American literature, it touched me the most. Basically here, there's a farmer whose son does not speak at all. Since birth, not a word from him. And he waited and waited. He was 5 years old, would not speak anything. Took to the doctors, they said nothing wrong with him. We do not know why he does not speak. He became 9 years old, and the farmer was working in the farm, and there was a bull coming from behind, chasing him and knocking him down. So the son says, "Dad, get off, that bull will kill you." And Dad was amazed that this is the first time my son says something, spoken verbal meaning. And Thakur says, "Son, why didn't you speak anything so far?" He says, "I had nothing much to say so far." That is silence.
Yes. Thank you, Bhagirath. Anything else from anyone?
I like that. For those of us who were shy kids, it's like, well, why don't you say something? And it's like, well, I'm watching you guys and I don't really have anything to say yet. But I just wanted to say kind of my takeaway from this talk, or one takeaway, is that it's about the union with the divine. And this is just yet another example of it.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, it's helpful to us, and it's validation to see, oh, well, Christ said it, and Patanjali said it, and it's in the Bhagavad Gita, and da 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 da. And it's great confirmation, but we get to the point where we don't really even need the validation, because what it's really about is that union. And it doesn't matter how you get there.
That's what Krishna says in the Gita. It doesn't matter how you get there.
Yeah, and all of these details, I mean, they're really interesting and they're fun to talk about and explore, and who went where. But I'm, as y'all who know me know, I'm pretty unorthodox and not non-traditional about spiritual and religious things. But I've gotten to the point in my life where I have a little motto that's follow the teachings, not the teacher. And it's not that the teacher isn't important, but the teachings are what are important.
Exactly.
And when the same teaching rises to the top over and over again, no matter where I look or what teacher I look at, then that's what's important. That teaching, that's what's going to lead me home, as they say in gospel songs.
Yes.
Thank
And
Thank you, Cindy.
I have a friend who is a British bluegrass musician and songwriter, and he wrote a song that I've been learning. I just love it. I mean, it's a song that's written supposedly about a relationship. But I mean, in the very beginning, he's saying, "I'm on the outside of something I don't understand. I'll be inside the day you take my hand." And the chorus is, "If I break all my bones just to get to you, I don't care anymore. If I lose all my friends and my money too, I don't care anymore. I don't care anymore." And it's this, to me, it was just this so spiritual second higher meaning to this song. Because when
Absolutely.
you get to that point where that's all you want is that union with God, you don't care if you lose your friends, your money, you break your bones, whatever, you're gonna get there. So that's my piece.
That's what Vivekananda tells us.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cindy. Anybody else?
To return to what Laurie was saying, we know there were missing years of Christ's life, correct? or we don't know where he was. We have no idea.
Well, we have some idea from the writings or trances of Edgar Cayce. There are these writings that Laurie spoke of in monasteries in northern India and what is now Tibet.
And what age
But-
was he when he went
but it-
missing and when he reappeared to the public?
He was 12, I do believe, or 12 or 13, and then returned for his, I think when he was 30, or at least that's, yeah, when he was 30, and then his
That's-
ministry was for 3
That's what
years.
the canonical Gospels tell us, yes.
Right.
Yeah, that's a long time. And we know that Ramakrishna also sought out to be taught by God-realized masters. So that is quite possible that he did go to seek the God-realized masters to be taught when he took a human body.
Altogether possible, yes.
Brother Shankara, I have a question. Please correct me if I'm wrong. Is it my observation, or is it true that Jesus Christ performed so many miracles, and Christianity puts great emphasis on that particular ability of a spiritual person to perform miracles. But in our Vedanta and Ramakrishna and whatever we are learning, performing miracles is not necessarily required, nor is it given high importance.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Uma. Sri Ramakrishna also performed miracles. Chaitanya performed miracles, if we want to call them miracles, demonstrations of their power.
Yeah.
The canonical Gospels, particularly Matthew and Mark, place great emphasis on these as a way to convince people. Now we have to remember that these canonical Gospels were selected at the Council of Nicaea in AD 300, when Constantine had decided to make Christianity the official religion of the Roman Empire.
Oh.
And so they were looking for those things that would be awesome and impressive to people. And so Jesus himself kept saying to people, don't mention these things that I've done. Don't say anything about this. He didn't, and he knew perfectly well, as is revealed in his Garden of Gethsemane conversation with God, he knew perfectly well that these things would get him killed, because that demonstration of power was far greater than the scribes and the Pharisees had available to them. And they felt threatened by it. And so it's one of the reasons that the Pharaoh allowed Moses and his followers to leave Egypt, because Moses demonstrated greater powers than the priests of the Pharaoh. So
you may say it's politicizing religion at that point.
well, I just don't think about it that much. Uma, I agree with Cindy. Let's focus on their teachings, not on
Yes.
their miracles or whatever. Those are, in a sense, incidental.
Right. Good. Thank you.
I'd like to share something.
Shankara? Okay, sorry.
I'd like to share something.
Yes, Robert.
We generally, when I've noticed that when I listen to a talk like this one, you're searching for answers. And I've discovered that maybe that's not the best direction to come from. Because I've noticed that when I come from a talk, because the answers, what's an answer is good for one person is not good for another. So answers don't work. If you come away with questions, if you come away from the talk with questions, over the next few days, or next few weeks, the next few months, you will search and you will find answers, and the answers will come. And there'll be answers that are appropriate for you.
Precisely, Robert, precisely.
And this talk opened a lot of questions that the people here will have to answer for themselves in the time to come in the future. And they'll be much more rewarding than an answer that may be good for this one or not good for that one. That guy.
Well, you're absolutely right, Robert, and that's why I often, ahead of these talks, give that caveat that these answers may not be good for you. Take what it is that you desire and feel needful from this. But each of us is unique. Each of us is going to come to our own understanding of divinity, because divinity cannot be contained in any sense of the word. Divinity is infinite, changeless, and eternal. But it's that word infinite that lets you know that each of us will find our own place, our own answers, as you say. So these answers are, as you so correctly point out, Robert, merely suggestions for questions for each of us to answer for ourselves in our own lives. I really like what you said. Yes, indeed.
Father,
Brother,
bro-
sorry, Karim.
no, it's okay. You can
You go ahead,
carry
sir.
on.
No problem. Go ahead.
Okay. So yes, brother. We talk about miracles, and we are waiting for like these spiritual giants to perform miracles. Means, I, I I feel that us being here talking God and trying to interpret His work through us, through all these spiritual giants who have come over for eons. It's and then coming to that same common truth that there is only one God and His various manifestation. That itself, I feel, is the biggest miracle.
Wonderful. Well said.
That's so. It's always happening within us, and He's just working through us. Every one of us are God, literally. Means we don't realize it, but He's in us.
But as was said in the reading this morning, that forgetfulness is temporary. And so we will awaken, as you said.
Yes.
We will awaken to the truth of our being.
We don't realize it, but we have God in us. That's the most powerful miracle that I just, that's like always my takeaway from all of your sessions. Pretty much means it just reinforces the fact over and over again. And they're like Christ, Buddha, Sri Ramakrishna. They're just telling us, hey, it's within you. You have it.
That's what they all say, yes. And Patanjali says it in spades, yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Rajiv.
Thank you, sir. No, this is Gaurav.
Oh, Gaurav, I'm sorry.
Yes, sir.
There is one particular thing that might, like from my experience, as well as like I've seen some others as well, like sometimes you feel the energy of God and, you are
We
you,
lost
you
you.
start to.
We lost you, Rajiv.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
So there might be phases where it's completely dark and you start doubting everything, and the way I sort of try to tell myself is Maya is so powerful that she can make you suspect and doubt all the spiritual stuff that you've ever experienced. And it is at this time that miracles form the hook. And any miracles that personally have occurred in your life, that is the hook that keeps you going. It's just something that will sort of help people emphasize with why these saints do miracles and why people want them.
Thank you, Rajiv. That's a very, very well said. Yes, we need something to reassure us. Anything
Brother,
else?
also, I had a question. How do you integrate Maya and Divine Mother? In many places, it's almost like Maya has to be feared, but then what is the difference between Divine Mother and Maya?
There is no difference. And the way to integrate it, as I understand it, is to read the Devi Mahatmyam, which was the suggestion and recommendation of Swami Swahananda, so that we understand the mother fully, so that we see that she is both sides of the equation. She is energy, she is matter, she is spirit, she is that which seems to us as not spirit. She is everything. She presides over the senses of all beings and governs all the elements. These are words from the Chandi. So I recommend reading the Devi Mahatmyam, particularly the hymns to Mother, but the whole book. And then if you have any questions, we can discuss them. Thanks for bringing up the question, as Robert says. These things do bring up these questions. Anything else?
I dearly love a good question, Shankara. And I find that sometimes a possibility is a fertile ground for good questions. And tying into what was mentioned before, it's my understanding that the last mention of the young Jesus was teaching the rabbis in the temple at the age of 12, which is about the age of bar mitzvah, and a possibility that was attractive to me still is that would be the age that an intelligent young boy who may have maxed out in Jerusalem would have joined a caravan and gone on the Silk Road, which would have taken him through the Himalayas, and where he would have found ears to resonate with that which was within him.
Very well said, Amadas. Very well said indeed.
I wanted
Thank
to
you.
offer that as a possibility.
Yeah. Anyone else?
Brother Shankar, I wanted to very quickly refer.
Somebody's got their mic open and we're getting feedback.
All right. Yeah. So one of the instructions we give to the young doctors as they graduate, be worthy to serve the suffering. And to me, these words are pregnant with enormous meaning. Because if you look at Jesus Christ, he has served many, but he was worthy of doing it. And that in many ways concludes so many points that you raised today, that it takes care of the arrogance, it takes care of the self-importance, it takes care of the notion that, oh, I'm doing so much. Just be worthy to serve the suffering.
Beautiful. That is the life of thou, thee, thine.
Yes.
Thank you, Bhagirath. Beautiful. Let there be peace in outer space. Let there be peace in the sky, on the earth, and in the waters. Let there be peace in the herbs, the plants, and the trees. May the gods be peaceful. May the whole universe be pervaded by peace. Let that infinite universal peace prevail throughout my being. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto us and to all beloved beings everywhere. Jai Shri Guru Maharaj Ji Ki Jai. Durga, Durga, Durga. May we be safe. May we be healthy. May we be cheerful. May we have peace of mind. May we go forward in the loving and protective embrace of the Divine Being as our Mother and Father. So until the next time, there are no more classes this rest of this year. The two observances that will be a Christmas Eve service celebrating the birth of Christ, and then 2 days later, on the 26th of December, there'll be a celebration of the birth and celebration of the life of Sri Sharda Devi, Holy Mother. Then, of course, there's the midnight meditation on New Year's Eve, and then the Kalpataru Day on January 1st. So thank you all, dears, for being part of this, for offering your own energy and wisdom and participation. This is what it means to study the art of spirituality together. So may you be safe, may you be healthy, may you be cheerful, may you have peace of mind. Until we meet again, thanks again for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
And as I said, this will all be with the talk. These notes and so on will all be with the talk as it appears on the website in a few days. Thank you, dear.
Happy holidays to everyone.
Happy holidays. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.